Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is just a rather short energy update because we do have certain aspects in the sky that are unfolding as we speak right now. So, now, and of course, they will extend all through the week, that are rather intense and significant both individually and collectively alike. Now, today is the full moon in the sign of Scorpio, where I am on the planet. So I'm in Romania. The full moon hasn't perfected yet, but it is in progress. But besides the full moon, that of course in itself is quite relevant, there is also another aspect which indirectly plays into the full moon's energy. And we're speaking about Mercury squaring Pluto. Now, this isn't a very rare aspect, to be totally honest with you, because this happens more than once every year. But however, given the present moment, given the present circumstances, it is quite significant, even though in itself it isn't rare. And this is due to the fact that, on one hand, Mercury is after its retrograde, which means we had a lot of processing and figuring out the self, Aries, right? It transited Aries. So we are behind a period of intense figuring the self out and evaluating many things in our lives from a rather, let's say, non practical perspective. Why do I say this? Well, because Mercury and also Venus, in their retrogrades, which ended not so long ago. So this was late February, March, most of April. Um, they retrograded back into Pisces. That's not practical. That's more like the realm of our psyche, everything subjective, everything due to belief, everything due to inner humors, etc., etc. And even in the sign of Aries, it wants to be practical, but it's not yet. So in the sign of Aries is the first step towards becoming real, becoming practical, but that doesn't mean in itself, especially at the beginning degrees, that it's practical. It just wants to be the desire, the goal, the intent. However, Mercury is already in the sign of Taurus. And Taurus is the gateway actually to the practical, to the real, to the embodied, when it's not just a dream, Pisces, neither just an intent, an initiative, a desire, or maybe why not a need? Aries, the fight, survival, the assertion. Okay, in Taurus, well, it already has to start building itself, start becoming real. May that require, well, the classical example of planting the seed to be placed where it can come to life, or work, labor, or passive right, but not the right itself, the benefits from it. In any way, shape, and form, this is the realm of Venus Taurus. So Venus herself is at the present moment, so right now on the 12th of May, is not yet totally in new territory. She is still wrapping up her retrograde, even though she's moving forward. But she's almost there. So Venus still contains the value and emotional and anything that has to do with the Venusian realm broken down to the primal, to the instinctual, to the very, very real. So again, Venus herself out from the dreamy realm of Pisces and into a part of the sky where she's not all that elevated. Aries, right? Very primal, very. So she remembers the lessons. She remembers what she dislikes. She remembers what doesn't work for her, what doesn't please her. And this can be in any way, shape, and form: romance, anything that is susceptible to like, love, tolerance, worth it for me or for the situation, etc. Or am I attracted to, especially in the sign of Aries? And this am I attracted to question is not just physical or sensual. Am I attracted to my job? Am I attracted to my daily routine? Am I attracted to my spiritual life? Or am I, okay, maybe attracted is not the best word to keep on using here, but am I satisfied? Am I content? Am I, why not, happy with something within me, within my life, a balance, something that depends purely on me, for any reasoning that this Venus also demanded Mercury, so the rational, to look at and analyze. So this is, in a nutshell, Mercury's journey towards this present moment. So why is this again important? Because this is where we need to bring the practical. In tarot, Taurus is the high priest. What it is that we wish to embody, what it is that we do no longer wish or want or can or etc. embody. And the square, so a conversation of tension with the planet Pluto, a fixed square, Pluto being on one hand in the sign of Aquarius, and on the other hand, Pluto is almost retrograde. So Pluto is basically standing still in the sky. Or Pluto, sorry, I'm so sorry. Pluto is retrograde already. However, it's not moving, it's standing still in the sky. That's what I wanted to say. Pluto is retrograde already. Its symbolism turned inwards. What has power over us and how do we feel about it? With Mercury, it's an uncomfortable energy because Pluto in Aquarius especially represents, well, the world of politics. And with Mercury, their tactics. Tactics also because another important minor player, in my opinion, Palestina is in the sign of Aquarius. Tactics, right? Wisdom, but in any way, shape, and form. And Aquarius is the mass. It is the population, people, under the influence of, well, Pluto, something's power. Social media, the rich and the powerful, the leaders, the governors, the representatives of the people, their Mercury, words, values, worldview. Aquarius is actually in mundane astrology, politics itself. Politics, the philosophical, sociological, legal, in anything that incorporates human society's life, reasonings to why things are the way they are. But Aquarius is the sign of the future. So where we are going towards, what we are dreaming, what we are collectively aspiring towards. And due to this square, and also I'm going to be mentioning in just a bit the full moon's effect, sometimes the world of politics, because they are few representing the many. If there's a disagreement, and there is the square, and the square gets more interesting because Mercury opposes Black Moon Lilith. Let me just mark Black Moon Lilith. So, yes, it means a T-square, but Pluto receives the T-square. So the T-square is pointing to Pluto. Let me just... So it points to Pluto. Well, this is not a very easy energy because it represents that if what we feel in our hearts, and Mercury in the sign of Taurus needs to consider that. It can't bypass that. It is important. What we feel in our hearts, and needless to say, our five senses, tells us that our representatives, politicians, the collective dream, the collective aspiration is not a match. It is dichotomous, contradictory, not really what the mass wants. And Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Scorpio, it dishes out. How should I say this? Well, the ugly, the unfair, the unjust Scorpio. Scorpio's lower expression, and it has to be lower expression because Black Moon Lilith is not fun and games and rainbows and infinite optimism. She's not. She is the raw, she is the primal, it is what it is. We can't look away from the ugly. We can't ignore, especially if the ugly, unfair, unjust, something that we don't like and we don't take pride in as a species, because this is, remember, collective energy, especially if that is there for everyone to see, we can't unsee it, especially under such an aspect. That's why Pluto receives the point of the T-square, because, well, who has to do something about it? Don't understand it, that Pluto himself, Hades, the god of the, no. Hades, the god of the underworld, merely, let me give a more, I'm so sorry for this, let me give a morbid example of what he does. Aquarius sociology brings the statistics, well, this is the death toll. And Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Scorpio, well, rings the alarm bell a bit. Oh, it's much higher than that, because what about the psychological death toll? Where the trauma in the living, well, it's the death sentence for their happiness. And earthly life, yes, it's about pain. It's about suffering. It's about how we deal with the unfair. Because ultimately, the earth, our, how should I say, direct cosmos, is chaotic. It has a chaotic side. And chaos does not care about our laws, our rules, or anything's, even the divine's sense of justice, equilibrium, fairness. For the sake of the continuity of the cosmos existence, it is an important motor. It cannot be made not to exist. So by in itself, we have to accept the unfairness and pain of life. However, life must also be about pleasure, happiness, content, seeing the reason of it all, the cycle, the sacredness. Long story short, have a happy moment. So Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Scorpio, well, for some people, it is exactly those future Aquarius happy moments that are, well, taken away, stolen from them. The trauma that will never really go away. The Second World War, Holocaust victims are living examples of this, that, well, sometimes, in some cases, the situation turned around, happy ending, compensation in abundance, and all of that does nothing. All of that, not that it doesn't do enough, it just doesn't do anything at all. It's not about being enough. It's about it doesn't penetrate. So all the person is left is inner resources. Most, of course, succeeded because they saw the great triumph in their sheer survival. Some few maybe have not. And that leaves very powerful lessons and why we can not repeat that. However, we are Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Scorpio, being part of this T square. Opposing Mercury communicates to everyone indirectly, because Scorpio is not the sign of direct. Indirectly, but by sight, just being able to see it in broad daylight, that it's not very okay. It's what we preach, ideologies, Aquarius, our higher mind, collectively, highest ideals, peace, equity, equality, everyone matters, every life matters, in some parts of the world, they would go as far to every opinion matters and take that seriously. Now, I'm not saying it shouldn't be like that, but that's an ideal. You can't take an ideal seriously. You can't, because the universe is built to be imperfect. So to aspire for an ideal, okay, but to take it that seriously in the sense that you can't even tolerate someone dismissing an opinion, your opinion, of course, our opinion, of an opinion. That's not how the universe is intended to be lived, exist. That degree of intolerance or sensitivity is incompatible with the universe. However, gross manipulation and a dichotomy where the principle says one thing and the lived experience is the total opposite of that, well, that's also an error in the system, but for the cosmos, not for us necessarily, for the cosmos itself. It says error does not compute, or it will really try and aggressively mirror, like aggressively, like just like sometimes we protest. That's one of the biggest civilian, one of the actions that can be taken to express how you really feel. What or who says that the cosmos itself cannot protest as well? That to the collective, that guys, you're not doing this right, or guys, wake up, there's a big contradiction between the theory and the practice. It can't go on like, and hence a T square, a fixed T square. But since the recipient is Pluto, how should I say, the primarily component here is the ideology. So what do we do? Aquarius, two options, the duality of Aquarius. Either we change the ideology to match the reality, so that would mean staining it, because the reality is ugly. But the only way ideology wouldn't lie or wouldn't be a liar is if it would reflect the ugly truth. Or what we should be doing, well, take a break, stop the practice, and let's step up the game to make the Aquarian values real. Embodiment, Taurus, to embody this Mercury. Well, first of all, we need to embody it with the lower mind. Perceive what needs to be perceived. What does this mean? most of reality is susceptible to what we want to perceive, to anything, from fate to subjective impressions, inner humor, the projection of others, projection of nature herself, is susceptible to very personal interpretation. However, collective issues, which must be the same to everyone, are not, because that's why it's fixed. Reality can only stand if certain things, not all that many, but certain things are the same for everyone. So everyone must perceive the ugliness that Black Moon Lilith, a lunar energy, a part of our souls, a brutal truth-seeking. I'm not even sure what words to use here. Like the praying mantis. Well, the praying mantis uses her claws, or those arms, to immobilize the prey. So sheer brute strength combined with agility and very sharp vision and intelligence, all that is also quite scorpionic. The non-toxic type Scorpio, and eats the prey alive. And the praying mantis's bite, as I said, is totally non-venomous. As powerful as it is, it's small. So you get where I'm going, the torture of it. So that's how we can envisage Black Moon Lilith as a praying mantis. It will not go away. It will keep on chewing and almost like holding in those grips, the mantis grips, our attention, a Scorpio, our focus, our soul energy, our unconscious, our deepest emotions. It horrifies us. It rings alarm bells. It doesn't allow us to feel at ease, safe, or at comfort, because Mercury in Taurus. Well, let's break it down to what we feel immediately. Financial instability. Mercury in Taurus and Tarot, especially the Crowley Tarot, is named material trouble, Five of Pentacles. It's not an easy energy. We have to go through certain experiences for the first time, and that means it can be very rough. It's trial and error. When we go through new experience, and this is new because the world never lived this in this fashion before. It is gonna be rough. It's gonna be tough. It may feel like survival. For some lucky few, okay, the jackpot. Finally, I can use my skill, my gift, my talents. Finally, I am powerful. Because Pluto, power games, power balance. For some people, their lives were totally powerless. And in a moment, that can change. Because the world changes. Times are unstable. Unstable means that which proved no chance of breakthrough or success previously, especially in the period from 2000 to 2020, those 20 years, that which proved not very full of potential or a good idea or whatever then, now can be a totally different story. And Uranus passively in the present moment just highlights this, approves this, consolidates this. Uranus is actually the chaos that doesn't respect any rule. And the sun is gonna conjunct Uranus very soon in a tight way. Some people already say it's conjunct in the present moment, not in a very precise manner. it doesn't matter. Sun Uranus conjunction, it happens once every year. Revelation, epiphany, seeing things for what they are. Okay, surprise, surprise, shock, unexpected, but it uncovers the secret. It uncovers the invisible. It turns the rocks so we can see what's under. Especially because it opposes the moon at the time of the full moon. It opposes Juno, asteroid of partnerships, commitment, promise, oath, marriage. In the sign of Scorpio, sexuality, sensuality, what's hidden, what's dark. But let's go to the collective expression. Exact commitment. Politicians, leaders, governors, parliament, Congress, whatever you want is meant to serve the people. If it's not serving the people, then if the people don't have access and any power over it, any not even the right to protest or anything, well, that's bad, isn't it? Pallas Athena squares this. Uranus Pallas Athena square. Something needs to happen. Because Pallas Athena in Aquarius says people will find tactics. People cannot be stopped. Like physical reality dictates, nature dictates that, well, the many. Let me give you the best example because the same Pallas Athena trines Jupiter in Gemini. That's the most harmonious energy. So Gemini is in nature bees. And bees, as we know, are led by a queen. But the queen is not how most people imagine her. Because this queen does not control the hive. The hive controls her. She is not a sovereign queen, like, for example, the ant. Because with the ants, she's kind of sovereign. She really controls, everything is about her. For the bees, everything is about the colony, not her. So if the bees disagree with the queen, she's cast out, no problem. And a new queen is very soon raised. So the bees can control who becomes queen. They can crown a fresh larva that doesn't even need to be laid by a queen with the, how you call that? That substance, the royal jelly. So they feed royal jelly to the larva and that larva will become queen 100% guaranteed. So you see what I mean? It's almost like a democracy. However, the queen, when everything's okay, she does her job, bees do their job, everyone's happy with each other. Well, as I said, harmony, and the queen is untouchable then. If she does her job, she's, as I said, untouchable. Every single bee would gladly die for her. If she doesn't do her job, then she's kicked out. Just like a male bee would be kicked out. So, this is exactly the trine. The control, manipulation, politics, promises, theory one, and practice total dichotomy will only work for so much, for so long. Then there comes an aspect which starts the Pluto retrograde. And that means this will be Pluto retrograde's primarily mission, to uncover this side of Aquarius and reveal it. The lies, the deception, the untrue, and of course the power of the people. The Aquarian principles, the humanitarianism, its power. Because, as I said, Aquarius is dual. There's not, And individually speaking, this is a very strong value energy. What is worth it for us, for me as an individual, in a relationship, in a household, in a contract, the high priest, remember, in tarot, contract, in relations with something stable, fixed, permanent in my life. If something fixed, stable, permanent no longer satisfies me, what do I do? That can be, as I said, a power dynamic within a relationship, material situation, shared something, because we cannot forget Scorpio, the opposite sign of Taurus, the Scorpio. So these are questions that are going to be raised now. A T square means we might not be able to figure it out right now. Right now might be very chaotic. Right now might be just that, oh man, I don't know what to do. I can't even envisage the future anymore because it's so uncertain. Collective reality, the facts, the figures, the Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, what I see in the, and I'm so sorry to use this word, the economy, but that's what it can come down to, individually speaking, is telling me to my face that expect anything but stability in the close future. What do I do? If I'm in a relationship, what do we do? If I have a family, what do we do as a family, as a community? In very many places, smaller businesses are like a family. It's not where, well, I'll lay off my employee. You, if it's a family, it feels like a family in smaller towns, especially, and everywhere in the world is like this. Not, I don't even have to mention any culture because basically everywhere on the world, this is very much the same. That will cause changes, powerful changes, permanent changes in the coming weeks, months, and of course, 2026. Because it's not just this energy just starts the domino. It starts the avalanche. It starts to roll the snowball down the snowy hill. It's the earthquake, the volcanic eruption that still needs to solidify. Because the instability is a factor, is a cause that's gonna produce changes in relationship. Love is love, pleasure is pleasure, solid soul connection, soul unity is soul unity, but dear life is dear life. This is when partners really can't afford to hinder one another. If they hinder one another, chances are there's going to be strong discussions here. Do we move forward alone or together, or things need to change? Secrets come out. Maybe not in a bad way. Talks, revelations, discussions. Uranus conjunct the sun. Something needs to be said. Feelings need to be dished out. Decisions need to be taken. So this is the type of energy that we're going to be having all week. This energy can be unstable, confrontational, hard, heavy. Angry words, Mars being in the sign of Leo, heated, combust, conjunct Varuna, cosmic balance and justice and righteousness. It's, and talking about Mars square Mercury. So not a very easy energy. Mars, I'm not saying that Mars is part of the square because that would mean a grand cross, which is one of the hardest energies in astrology. But still, another fixed sign, Leo, pumped up, powered up my Mars. The heart demands, instinct, the self, chill for my children, etc., etc. So This is what we are experiencing right now. And Scorpio, full moon in Scorpio, things we need to admit to ourselves and to others, especially people who we share things with, friends, family, those colleagues who feel like family. Some leave, businesses close, but new ones open. But the ones which are open are different. Maybe there's a risk factor. Instability, chaos changes things around. Improvisation may not be a bad thing. Losing comfort, losing convenience, losing guaranteed security, being forced to live on faith, hope. There's a magic to, as hard, maybe sometimes ugly as it is, it also has a magic side to it. What do I mean? If something connects us straight to source, well, it's not wisdom. It's not study. It's not going to temples. It's not going through pilgrimages. It's not living passively in peace. It's this. All of what I said are pathways. But this, the bumps, climbing the mountain, the bumps, Five of Pentacles, material hardship. But when I say material hardship, it doesn't need to be for the self. It can be all around the self. It can be health situation. It can be having to go through life without our usual comfort. For some people, that can mean a big tragedy when really it will just make them healthier and retrain certain skills they lost due to comfort, make them think outside of the box, make them think inventive. For some people, it will be a very strong healing force. For others, it's scary, it's sad, but then again, Pluto, power of the collective, there must be help. There must be hope. And the other element, like, let me give you an example how it comes forth in a rather non-financial material way. Not so long ago, the space, oh, I have a lapsus here, like a space telescope, Webb or something, Webb space telescope, discovered galaxies that shouldn't exist because they formed almost straight after what scientists theorize to be the Big Bang. So that puts the Big Bang theory immediately in the trash. Invisibly, no one is drumming this. It just collapsed modern cosmology, the earthquake. It doesn't, modern cosmology, the way we understood the universe, what it is, how it's, what time is, no longer makes sense. We discovered that the laws of physics are literally a certain way in one part of the cosmos, totally different way in another part of the cosmos. So this already collapsed one of our strongest realizations of our species. We know we don't understand the cosmos whatsoever. We know nothing. There's another effect, but that in itself is not really a big problem. Back to the drawing board. The mystery thickens. That's beautiful. That's good. However, financially speaking, social politically speaking, it's not all that beautiful. And the last thing I want to mention, where all of this is leading us either collectively, and about the collective I really don't have to speak about, and individually, within a relationship, a marriage, a home, a situation, a job, career, daily routine, health, where what I want to do with my anything basically. So where this to Towards the end of May, Saturn is preparing to move into Aries, a big energy shift. So Saturn joins Neptune. Reality life is feeling already totally different. Jupiter into roughly the same period, the big picture, the months. So the midsummer is in Cancer already. A part of this, a big energy shift, because Jupiter doesn't like it in Gemini. It is the opposite sign of its ruling, it's home of Sagittarius. In Gemini, well, faith doesn't come all that easy, because healthy faith, as Nadia Shaw says, questions itself. This is exactly the period when faith has to question itself. Facts, figures, the rationale, the empirical, the real life, what I perceive cannot be ignored in any way, shape, and form. When reality, what you perceive and see, screams at you that I'm not fixed, I'm malleable, I'm ether, shape me with your thoughts. Coincidences are everything. This is your moment to write your story. Well, then we'd better have faith. Sometimes that's Jupiter in Gemini. When faith screams at you, dude, or do that, look, you can do weird things. Use this opportunity quickly to make that wish, or you know what I'm speaking. Other times is the stop believing in something that it's Gemini, way too extreme for you. Stop believing in fairy tales. Stop believing in the past. For example, holy scriptures that have also history to it. It cannot be relevant in the present. That was. The future is what we're building now. So faith questions itself. Sometimes the mind is reminded by faith to, well, open yourself, because this is the opportunity. This energy is going to change very powerfully once Jupiter enters Cancer, because that's the realm of emotion. That's the realm of emotional connections, family, place, ethnicity, borders, real estate, the land and the person. Sorry, family and the person. You get what I mean. That's so Jupiter likes it in the sign of Cancer. So Jupiter itself is going to be very strongly there with faith, with the power of hope. However, it will immediately square Neptune and Saturn and this is part of their great conjunction on 21st December 2020. This square is part of that meeting of theirs. So the paradigm that began in 2020, the future that we're already living. So Jupiter squares both Neptune and Saturn. What's true and what's not? Because Aquarius is the big dream. The dream for the future. The utopia, so to speak. For example, the maximum benefits and highs that we can achieve as a species with artificial intelligence. That's the aspiration. Because they met at 0 degrees of Aquarius. Pluto is in that area. It passed, but it isn't, it's still in that area. So what I'm saying here is what Jupiter and Saturn square is okay. That's the journey, that's the bullseye, but this is the downside of it. This is the ugly side of it. This is the bad side that we need to work on. And both individually and collectively, our principles, our aspirations, our dreams, our connections to Aquarius in ancient astrology was the good spirit. So you can imagine our highest hopes, what we want to align with, even in faith, even in ideology, theology, whatever logic. This conversation, first of all, will show us, well, look, this is what is too extreme. This is what you need to edit out. This is what you need to change, because Aries is the self and Cancer is the root of the self, where that self is rooted. In a larger sense, well, the earthly plane, physical reality. In a smaller sense, well, the person's connection with the land. So that automatically, for most people, will mean the country, culture, their families, either absent or present, because that's also Cancer when your family is absent, an orphan. There's something deficitary or shadowy in the sign of Cancer usually, or the fourth house, or etc., etc. Maternal wounds, also Cancer, fourth house domain. So Jupiter in Cancer is very, very important. So with the square, it highlights what needs to change. So that's a massive energy shift for all of us that we need to adapt to. And that's also the world stage initiation, the new, the next. Whatever is there, Jupiter will greatly amplify. Saturn will struggle because Saturn is not very comfortable in the sign of Aries. It is unbound or sometimes too strict. If it's too strict, the strictness needs to stop. If it's too unbound, a strong style discipline needs to be. So energy shift. What we need to do with Saturn, opposing to what Saturn does with us. And then also Neptune. Neptune Jupiter square is always, regardless of which sign, which way, faith. What do I believe? What do I want to believe? What belief works for me? But what is outdated? How, and Jupiter in Cancer, squaring Saturn in Aries, this is where individuals break off from family religion. I no longer embody this religion. I leave this cult. I leave this sect. I leave this faith. And usually something Aquarian, free, life-based, eclectic, flowy-based, like Rastafarian type of expression, that is usually embraced. The freedom of love, joy, spirit, and ultimately that the earthly plane is, as I said, also about love, happiness, pleasure, that makes us want to embrace the pain, the hard, the ugly. Because one without the other is absurd, futile, useless. So this is what's upcoming, both individually and collectively. And as I said, as Jupiter enters zero Cancer, we'll see it on the world stage. So powerful, powerful energy shifts, which will represent us shifting in feeling, in value, in sense of self, and in so much. And this full moon with Mercury squaring, being part of the Lilith Pluto T-square, fixed T-square, is the opener for this. So again, as a word of advice, let's be careful what words we use. Honesty is encouraged, but if we know it's a dagger that cuts, we can be gentle, or this can also be a very eruptive energy. So let's try and be as disciplined as we can. This energy, of course, is about more not being in control. Things in life, the biggest things in life usually come totally outside of control. Only the very, very few live the type of life where what they want, they get. Life gives it the way they want it. That's not just an illusion, but manipulation. That's a lie. That's fake. That's not how life ever works or worked. Yes, for the elite, for some few it did, but with certain sacrifices. And anyway, for most people, for most of us, that is the secured path to unhappiness. For most of us, life comes exactly when we are totally powerless and we expect it the least. So this is the time for that. Regardless of how it plays out, if we try our best to embody our highest principles, but in a non-rigid, not non-fanatical, in a really open and benevolent and open to transformation in the future way, we do ourselves a massive favor. Sometimes we cannot allow changes. Sometimes we cannot help but allow changes to enter our lives. When you know that something is inevitable, because that's how nature works, that's how life works, that's how the world and the cosmos works. For example, when something just is past its time, a job, a living situation, a relationship, a friendship, an alliance, whatever that may be, an object. It's time to get a new washing machine. There's no other way. Time to get a new car or not drive an unsafe car. These big things in life, these will lead to decisions, truth, clarity, embracing both the true, genuine self-compassion, but also the ugly that is hand in hand with that. We cannot feel compassionate towards ourselves if we ignore the ugly. You know what I mean? So that will might leave us feeling in a state of unfairness, injustice. What chance do we have? Some things in our lives are stolen from us because we are part of a community, a collective. We are part of the Aquarian energy. If rights are stolen, then our rights are stolen as well. Just an example of this. So we have to face this, embrace this, and do something with it. And chances are vengeance, mindless retaliation is not the key. Finding wisdom within ourselves and striving for whatever is greater peace, greater authenticity, greater safety and comfort for us personally, but with the circumstances that we have in a realistic way, and strong faith, a feeling within the soul that things are gonna be a certain way. Well, that is part of stability. That is because very strong, when you know it's gonna turn out a certain way, that's your relationship with your instinct, with your intuition. That's your inner intelligence. That's your connection to the source. That is a certainty, a comfort, a safety given to you by the source. But that's individual. Another person may not feel that way, may not have that, may not experience that. So everyone needs to look at their own blessings. So what I'm saying is a strong belief and faith that things for you are going to turn out a certain way. Well, that's part of Taurus. That's part of embodiment. That's part of the future. And for some people, the collective instability is not enough to jeopardize their faith. But that's their blessing. Most people don't have that. Some people have great material comfort. Other people have great inner comfort. Faith that cannot be touched can truly move mountains. So some people have that type of resilience. Everyone with their own blessing. But sadly, the majority don't have either. So this is why we will see a lot of maybe turmoil, panic, chaos, fear, strong discussion around ourselves. So we must somehow not allow that to become ours if we know for ourselves that our story is totally different. So thank you everyone for listening. Oh, one more thing that I want to mention. Uranus is staying its last moments conjunct with Algol, fixed star Algol, the head of. As we saw, usually Algol is when a head falls. So the head of the Catholic Church went to eternity. So that's one expression of Algol. The other expression, especially with Uranus, a new one takes its place. And Uranus is the unusual, the new, the next. And the new Pope is, well, American. What does that have to do with Uranus? Well, America doesn't have a very long history, which means it is very Uranian as a civilization. It's new. It's unusual in the fact that it incorporates, genetically speaking, people from various parts of Europe and in modern times all over the world. And it's also very, very freedom-based and oriented. So the Pope, being part and a representative of that culture, how Uranian, how new, how next, how revolutionary, even in the realm of faith and strong tradition. This is a very big thing. So again, Uranus and Algol together, the Pope's expression, the astrology playing out so beautifully out there. So thank you everyone for listening. Until next time, bye for now.